Welcome, welcome! For anyone who's new to me, my name's Brentan, and today's class is an ankle mobility class as part of our year-long How to Move Your Body yoga program. Now, before we get started, I might recommend you to grab a yoga block if you have one at home. If not, a really thick book or even a short step stool will work just fine. I'll also suggest grabbing a blanket, something that we can roll up to assist some ankle stretches through our plantar flexion. All right, so when you're ready, let's go ahead and just start down on our backs. So start with the soles of your feet in front of your pelvis. Press into your feet, lift your hips. Scooch them down away from your armpits so you know you get long in your low back. Then wiggle your upper body out of your pelvis so you know you got long in your upper back. And then take your hands, nestle them behind the nape of the neck and start to lift your skull up and back. Widen your elbows. Trust the support of your hands so your neck muscles go nice and soft. And as you lower your head back down to the floor, just see, is your forehead and your chin about parallel with each other, or is your forehead rocked back? So if your forehead's rocked back, then you might like a little pillow or a folded blanket under your head just for this part. So once everything feels pretty even, that frees up our attention now so that when we go into the ankle mobility series, we're not, sort of confused right out of the gate because our attention is being held in these places that are really uncomfortable. So we just try to get as comfortable as we can. Then go ahead and figure four your right foot over your left knee, enough so that you can start to roll out that ankle a little bit. And in this roll, notice that your ankle goes through a full range of motion. Dorsiflexion, eversion, plantar flexion, inversion. See if you can make these circles slow and controlled. So the more slowly we move, the more active, the more deliberate our muscle systems need to be. And then make sure you go in both directions. And as this starts to feel equal to that of the other side, then go ahead and rest your foot in a flexed position like you were standing on a floor. And just try to line up your second toe with your center ankle. At some point, you'll just be able to feel that intuitively. But until that happens, through the repetition of this hundreds of times, that's how long it takes to actually build this into something that we don't have to think about. We can use our vision. We can just look down and see, is my second toe and my center ankle pretty much aligned? That's neutral, anatomical neutral. And so that's a position that we'll want to learn to train. You might feel that the muscles on your shins, on the front of your shins, start to fire up to make that happen. That's those muscles pulling on the top of the foot to get it to lift towards the knee. Okay. When you're ready, go ahead and point the foot. So now we're gonna stretch those same muscles as we take the ankle into plantar flexion. And again, so this is the calf muscle squeezing to draw the heel closer to the back of the knee. And as we do this, take out any inversion or eversion. So again, we're having the second toe line up with the center ankle. And then just take your foot back and forth from inversion to eversion a little bit. So inversion it's a slight flex of the foot, and then you're rocking the big toe ball mount to the inner knee. And then eversion is rocking the pinky toe ball mount to the outside of the knee. So you're gonna feel different muscle compartments activate when you pull your big toe towards the inner knee. That's your inner calf. As you pull your pinky toe towards your outer knee, that's your outer shin. And then resting at center here, you can go ahead and just kind of shake out through that ankle a little bit. Notice how this kind of falls, everything that we do in these mobility classes kind of falls into the category of simple, not easy. So it's one of those things that you look at from outside, you're like, whatever, I can do that, no big deal. But then you actually do it, and there's a lot of sustenance, there's a lot of nutrients, and quite honestly, a lot of challenge in some of this. So go ahead, release your right foot back down to the floor, and change your sides. Take your left foot, figure four it over your right knee. You can start to roll out through that ankle. As you do this, see if you can let your facial muscles be really relaxed. See if you can let your torso and your abdomen cavity be pretty relaxed. And as you breathe, try to send the breath as low into the abdomen as you can. So instead of breathing directly into the chest or into the ribs, we want to see if we can access deeper breath. And that's going to calm the nervous system. It's going to make whatever work we do here more deliberate, more calm, more intentional. And so we're creating different patterns than if we were to do the same exact movement, breathing higher up in the body. So that's how subtle that can be for us. Change the direction of your circles if you haven't already. This is a good time to assess, if you have old ankle injuries or you got stuff going on in your foot, you got stuff going on in your lower leg. It's one of those times that you can just kind of say, okay, here's where I feel that trigger. Here's where I can't really feel anything. I can't really pay attention to anything. And now see if you can take your foot and you can rest it in a natural flex position, not like hyper flexed, but just flexed enough like it was standing on the ground. And orient your foot so that your second toe and center ankle are aligned with each other. And as you do this, take low, deep breaths in your body. Feel your heel bone press out at the center. Feel your big toe ball mound, your pinky toe ball mound, so like the triangular bony mass of the foot, which we went over the last few weeks. You can feel that kind of press away gently from the knee. The more you flex, the more you're going to feel the muscles in the shin turn on. And then to stretch out those muscles, squeeze the heel closer to the back of the knee and point the toes. And again, see if you can just line up second toe with center ankle. And then coming out of that just to like a nice natural position, then you can invert the foot, so rocking the big toe up to the inner knee, and evert, rocking the pinky toe up to the outer knee and going back and forth. And as you feel right and ready, shake out through that foot, relax it down to the ground. We're gonna go ahead and roll over and come on up to a seat. Okay, so here is where we'll play with our plantar flexion and our dorsiflexion a little bit more. So my recommendation will be for us to work on the floor. However, if the floor is just kind of an impossible prospect for you today, I want you to see if you have like a step stool at home, something that you could sit up on, so that what we can start to train is we can train this action of the foot, so plantar flexion, where the toe is pointing away from the knee. Now, this shows up in our yoga practice in a lot of places. One of the ones is like when you're just doing poses that are flat on your belly. And so if your feet are not able to point to that degree, you're gonna find compensation maybe in other parts of the body. You might experience pain down there, or just like too much discomfort that you can't pay attention to other aspects of the pose. And that's one of the things about this yoga practice. We're trying to kind of flush our body with attention evenly. So if there's any one piece that's ever sticking out to us, like, that's something we want to learn how to try to address to the best of our abilities. And so this is why I've suggested us to grab a blanket. So we can figure out for ourselves, how much plantar flexion do we normally have? And test that out. See, can you just sit back on your heels like this with your toes pointed back? And the way that we do this is also important. We don't just want to kind of splash all our body weight down and kind of smash the ankle bones. We want the ankle joints to be held together firmly in a plantar flex position. So what that means for us is, again, second toe lining up with the center ankle, that toes are spreading out. Anytime the foot is plantar flexed like this with the toenails on the ground, we want to spread the pinky toe away from the big toe. And now we'll see, this might just be impossible for us. That's why I recommended maybe if you get yourself up onto something, you can start to feel this without taking your body weight down onto the joint itself. And so that can actually be like a really great place to work. But if you're somewhere in between, like this doesn't feel good, but like you don't need a step stool or anything like that, that's why this blanket can be awesome. So what I've done is I've just taken a folded blanket and I've rolled it up a couple of times. And each one of us is going to be different, because now what I can do is I can take this right underneath the ankle joint, and it's going to kind of let me individualize the degree of plantar flexion that my joint takes so that I can work on it over time. So let me show. Top of the ankle down. As I look back, yep, center ankle, second toe, pinky toe spreads away. Okay, that's good. Second leg. Okay, can get a little bit more spread through the toes back there. And then I'm gonna try to stretch my knees forward and draw my hips back evenly. So I'm not, we're gonna get into the legs. But now see, oh wow, I can feel, even for me, this feels better. So I can actually press down with the tops of my feet. I can hold my ankle joints in a really supported position here so that it's not kind of brute force pushing bones away from each other. And that's what I see a lot in yoga, and I've experienced myself, oh my gosh, in my own practice, is getting the bones in really unstable positions because of how demanding these shapes are on us. So what we're learning to do is we're learning to take the movement in our muscles, we're learning to hold our joint securely in place, and this is where we get really, really good sustained mobility. So if plantar flexion is an issue for you like this is something that you should be practicing multiple times, holding the position for upwards of 2 minutes even, because that's how long it can take the nervous system to kind of reset set lengths in areas down here. And that's how we get more over time. And so over time, your trajectory, your path forward is to loosen the rolls on your blanket so that you can go further down towards the ground. And then in the meantime, when you go into yoga class or something like that, you can always have a blanket near the back of your mat and place it down back here where you know your ankles land in your vinyasa sequence or your sun salutations, whatever that is, so that you can use your blanket for your belly back bends. That's what I would recommend. That's how I would move forward. Okay, lean forward. Come on out of this. I'm gonna tuck my toes under just because that feels good. I'm gonna sit back on the heels just to stretch out the soles of the feet. And now it's here that we're gonna work the opposite. So we'll work our dorsiflexion. And so if again, the floor is too far away from you, grab a chair. This time you can work from a chair. Just make sure it's like low enough that you can actually get your feet on the ground, and you can work with your feet on the ground, your legs in different variations. If you're okay to be down here on the floor or on a step stool, that works as well. I'm gonna leave one leg tucked under, and just because plantar flexion is okay for me here, I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna pull my right foot forward. Okay, so our dorsiflexion is the one where the top of the foot comes to the top of the knee. So first I'm gonna feel those muscles in there. I'm gonna feel what muscles create that. So I'm just gonna take a mild angle here, right? It's not like this. That's like a really deep angle. It's a mild angle. So take your foot into a mild angle, and we're gonna start with just some toe lifts, or lifting the ball of the foot. So pressing into the heel, lifting the ball, and lowering it. And doing this a few times. As I do this, I'm trying to lift my foot evenly, the inner and outer edge of the foot. So again, I'm not going to eversion or inversion throughout this chain of motion. And I'm starting to feel the muscles in the shin react to this, to activate, this is my job, they say. And now I'm gonna I'm gonna do this passively by changing the angle of my bones. So this is, I'm gonna bring my heel in closer to my body, or if you're sitting in a chair, more underneath the chair. And as this happens, it deepens the angle. I'm only doing this to the extent that I can still press my heel down into the floor. So once it lifts, that's where we know, okay, that's my range of motion there, and this is where my work is. This is where I get to work. So I'm leaning forward here. I'm actually gonna use my arm to kind of press my knee over my second toe. This should be possible. You know, the angle that's possible here for us is really knee out over that toe. And this shows up in our yoga practice quite a bit. Malasana, for example, that's our squat pose. This is also the ankle position for downward facing dog, which we'll do in a bit. And now I'm gonna try to combine my movements. So as my knee is pressing forward, I'm just gonna lift my toes up because I know I can't get the ball of my foot to lift up. But lifting the toes, firing up those muscles, and then releasing. And doing that a few times. Very subtle stuff. Again, simple but not easy. All right, so to release this, actually, let me do this. If you're working in a chair, then continue to work where you're working. If you're working down here, you're more in this like little ball position, then maybe try this out for a few times. Try to keep your butt and your heel close to each other. You can use your hands and begin to take the knee down and forward. So you got to keep your toes spread out. You got to use the ball of your foot evenly, but then you can rock back. So you can use your hands for this action. And that's deepening that dorsiflexion, right? Or once you start to feel like you got the hang of it a little bit, you can do Lokma, no hands. And when you're ready to change your sides, you can roll out of that. And then go ahead and switch it up. So it's the left foot coming into just kind of like standard easy peasy. You work this right leg, whatever leg is underneath you, to the best of your ability. And now with the left leg, it's a shallow angle there to begin. We're gonna learn to fire up the dorsiflexion muscles as we lift the ball of the foot. And lower, and lift and lower, and on we go. And then we can take the ball back down. We can take the foot closer to the body or more underneath the chair. We'll ground down into the left heel and draw that knee forward. Oh, those calves, hello. What a good stretch there. And so if you find that this is a limiting position for you because of those poses I just mentioned, downward facing dog, malasana, other things like that, even lunges, then this is where you work. And again, it's every day and it's working for more than 2 minutes. You can kind of go in and out. That's also another really good technique to help the nervous system become comfortable with new end ranges. So to repeat something, to release it, to repeat it, to release it, to repeat it. And so it's basically about like, how do I train my brain and my nervous system to improve my mobility? Because it's not just wishful thinking. That's not gonna get us where we wanna go. We need to have a strategy that works. So we need to understand how our brain controls and activates our body so that we can learn to speak in that language. So as your knee comes out and tracks forward, oh my gosh, toes lifting and down. Breathing nice and low and deep. Face nice and soft and relaxed. And then you keep working like this if you're in the chair. If If you're down here on the floor, maybe you use your hands and you start to lean that forward so the knee goes down. The butt stays low to the heel, and we're still pushing the heel out. We're pressing through the ball mound of the foot evenly from left to right, and we're just going in and out of that. And I'm just trying to kind of orient my right leg so that it's helpful. And if you're feeling anything in the joints here, like in the knee or something, use more support so you have more control there, because probably what's going on is that it's not super stable in that joint area yet. We're gonna work on all of this because the knees are next. Okay. So shake that off, you guys. Thank you for playing along. Let's try our downward facing dog if you're willing. Again, if the floor is not good for you, you can always do downward facing dog at a wall by pushing the wall away, trying to create 90 degrees with your body. And so that means that ankles stay right underneath the hips the best you can. But let's try it out on the floor. If you can get down here on all fours. So ground down through your fingers more than your wrists. Take deep, slow breaths into your abdomen. See if you can feel your entire spine. Move your pelvis forward and backward a little bit. So tailbone rocking under and dropping down, so that then you can deliberately set it in neutral, or as best you can understand neutral today. Tuck the toes under without disturbing the pelvis tilt. Press down with your hands, keep your jaw soft, your tongue soft, lift your knees, and then press your hips high and back to downward facing dog. So root the ball mounds of your feet down into the floor evenly left to right. Take your heel bones down to the floor and stretch them away from the balls. Lift the tops of the feet towards the knees. And just see your ankle flexion there. How does it feel? Keep your heels heavy. Push off your hands one at a time to walk yourself back to your feet. And then in your own time, come all the way up to stand. I have just one more ankle mobility sequence. This is why a block or kind of like a big, thick Harry Potter sized book does wonders. So I'm gonna take it down to the floor. And for my friends who are working with advanced mobility, if you have more than one Harry Potter book or more than one block, stack 2 blocks instead. So we can just start by taking one foot up onto the block. I'll take my right foot up, and I'm just gonna see if I can get sort of neutral here. So I need to use my standing leg. This is balance. I need to use my standing leg to push the foot down and to draw the leg up into the pelvis evenly so that my left foot is at the same height as my right foot is in space. I don't know how good of a job I'm doing. I can't have a mirror, but if you have a mirror at home, that's good. It'll help. Now my knee tracks forward, my ankle stays on my heel stays on the block, and I'm just gonna bend my knee and tap my left foot down to the ground. Then I'm gonna push through the right leg and bring it back up. Okay, so we're loading the movement a little bit here. Giving these muscles more job to do. And you'll notice that even the muscles in your right leg need to work a lot. I'm trying not to sway my right bottom out to the side. So I'm trying to use my right bottom muscles to hold that side of the hip in place. And then when I'm ready to hold the down position, I hold the down position. Again, not with sassy pelvis over here. My pelvis is going straight behind so that my hip bones, if you don't know where they are, feel around for them because you can usually feel them. My hip bones track over their knee. And as I look down, I can see that both of my knees track down through my center ankle and out through the second toe. And this is what's neutral for me, for most skeletons. Of course, if you know something different about how your bones are structured, then you're gonna have a different neutral. And that's going to be each one of our jobs to individually assess for ourselves. Okay, press into the right foot, come on up, and see if you can just give yourself a passive little plantar flexion dangle there. So point out through the left toes, really let the heel get heavy, really let the second toe get heavy. And again, as I look down, second toe, center ankle is what I'm trying to line up. Then I'll switch my sides. So at first I'm just trying to get even, not freak out. Then I'll bend into the left knee, take the right foot to the floor, push down, come on up. So I'm trying to make the motion happen in the leg, knee tracking out over the second toe. I'm trying not to have the movement happen so much in my pelvis or so much in my upper body. And then this next time that it goes down, it can stay. Center of the heel down, knee tracks over that second toe. Man, this is so good. Press down, come on up. Passive plantar flexion dangle here. Try to get yourself, and if you don't know how to get yourself passive, sometimes I like to do like little shakes, things like that, so that then it can kind of land naturally. We want to have our bones feel naturally positioned as best we can at any given time. And in your own time, come on out of that. Okay, you guys, well, thank you so much for playing today. I hope your feet and your ankles just feel like they have more mobility, that you have sort of a map as you move forward, so you know where your individual work is. And then that way you can prioritize that in the classes that you go to or the different type of movement modalities that you seek out. Next week, we're going to be doing slow and steady sun salutations, which is going to stimulate the feet and the ankles in all of their good directions. And then we'll move on to the knees after that. So before we wrap up, I just want to let you know that you can support us for making these videos if you like to. If you want to be part of a community and you want to actually have some conversation, some interaction with us so it doesn't feel so anonymous, we're on Patreon. That's the major community that we're looking to build and to be a part of. So you'll also get question and answer calls, additional resources, things like that. So that we have a link down in the description for that. And otherwise, I'll see you right here next week. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.